So traders still have that kind of wait and see attitude. Are we going to see the Hormuz open up a little bit? And if we do quickly, then we still got the capacity. So they're on oil, they're still waiting a little bit to see actual impacts on capacity and production. Whereas on gas, we've seen that impact. We've seen the impact of what the shutoff of really one of the top three producers in the world has done. So that's really put markets into turmoil, Francine.
And Demos, I mean, because there's no words, no end in sight of this war, you really see expectations of inflation going up. Is that, again, through the right lens? Because, a war could, I don't know whether we're talking about a couple of months, a couple of years, or how you view it and the impact it has on inflation and therefore, what central bank reaction function.
I think the markets are, particularly the bond markets, are focused on inflation here now. I'm not sure that this is the most pressing angle. We have been through bigger in terms of trade, bigger price shocks. We've had tariff shocks. We have had natural gas prices over 300. There has been, the economies have seen through these shocks in a bigger way. But there are two main angles here that I think the market is trying to also oscillate around. The first one is, don't forget, we entered this situation with the market selling US assets and buying European assets diversified away. Now, it is reminded of the big vulnerabilities that the European continent has in terms of reliance to energy from the most dangerous locations on the planet. The other angle here is that obviously when that resolves, when the situation resolves, we could be also in a better place. So the market is trying to oscillate between what they want to buy for resolution and
purely understand is more than just an energy shock. It's salty, sweet, irresistibly crunchy obsession.
That's going to be tough. So there was this very interesting exchange, over yesterday, the day before, where President Trump said, the Iranians already reached out to us to talk. It was supposedly Larijani, the head of the National Security Council in Iran. He was emerging as, for now, the most important leader in Iran. And he said, we are not talking with the Americans. He has to say that. I mean, if you look at the history of what happened that led to this war, multiple times when they've gone to talk to the Americans struck when they were supposed to go and negotiate. Of course, also the JCPOA, which the Americans collapsed, in 2018. So, he has to say this. He represents a very hardline regime. The Iranians know that they're in a difficult position. They need an exit. Someone is going to have to take the lead, and I suspect that the way that this will ultimately work, if there is an off-ramp, it will be via Oman and the Gulf.
The market's been down this morning since the open, and then just started rotating towards lunchtime here, nearing lunchtime, rotating back after absorbing this level here. These sellers trapped.
For an uprising, again, I'm clear how that happens because royal guards are still, armed and have all the weapons. So, is there anything that we should be thinking about the plan after? Is it when Donald Trump says whatever it takes? Is it at all costs getting rid of this regime?
This is the difficult part, right? If you have if you think through the logic of this campaign, military, how it should work out, it should be, 4 to 6 weeks of intense bombing to destroy. They've already achieved their superiority. That was number one. Then they need to, destroy all the kind of, the missile, the means of response that Iran has. Then they can move on to, just flying drones all over the country and, taking out Basij or IRGC as they build barricades and so on, and show to Iranians that you can, if you come out, we will be your Air Force. That is a long process, and it involves a lot of question marks. And that, I think, is why you see this kind of utter confusion from Rubio, etc., as to why we're there and what we're trying to achieve. achieve. You have headsets and Trump saying, well, we're not ruling out boots on the ground. There is no way that the US is putting boots on the ground, but they need to say this stuff to just show that they have escalation dominance all the way.
And Anthony, on China, I mean, China buys so much of this Iranian crude, they kind of weighed in saying, they urge all sides to ensure the safe passage of ships through Hormuz. Is there anything else that China can do to put pressure on either side?
Equity indices built on opinions? That's the old way. The new way is Bloomberg Equity Indices, built using transparent, rules-based methodologies that are more responsive to changes in the markets, powered by 450 billion daily data points, and backed by research by hundreds of global experts, delivering benchmarks driven by the markets, not opinions. Bloomberg Equity Indices. Get evolved benchmarks for today's equity markets.
Noise. There's a lot of it these days, especially when it comes to technology. And with so much noise, it's hard to distinguish what really matters to your business. But the answer isn't less tech, it's how we orchestrate. Because when people, systems,
Seeing divergence here.
work together, that's not noise. That's the sound of limitless possibilities.
I mean, pretty much everyone in the Gulf depends on China as their main buyer, and China really has a stake there that the oil continues flowing. They had discussed with Saudis issues around Bab al-Mandeb before. They're discussing with the Iranians, as we understand, around Hormuz right now. The only thing they can really do is probably keep that pressure there. But again, this is a key transit route for them, not only for the oil, but also, as we said, the LNG. And it will be important for them that infrastructure remains working, remains functional, so that once this war is finished, those exports are continuing to flow and able to flow to them. The Chinese have a huge strategic reserve that they've been building up over the past several years, and that's been helping prop up some of the oil prices, even as we've seen excess production in the market. So they should be good for some reserves, but they really want that waterway open and continuing to flow for instance.
All right, thank you all for a terrific briefing. Bloomberg opinion columnist Mark Champion, Anthony Power, Middle East energy markets reporter, and Demos Furtakis, global head of FX strategy and EM macro strategy at Barclays. Coming up, the UK Chancellor seeks to keep her spring statement a low-key fair. We'll look ahead to an update on the state of the UK economy. That's next, and this is Bloomberg. Rachel Reeves will deliver an update on the state of the UK economy later today, focusing on government's economic plan for Britain. Well, Bloomberg's Lizzie Burden joins us from Westminster. Lizzie, what, if anything, is Reeves expected to announce?
Well, Francine, this is the first chance the Chancellor will have to respond to the economic implications of the US-Iran war, as you've been discussing the impact on energy markets. And already we've seen traders paring bets on Bank of England rate cuts, so they only see 1 quarter point cut this year. So the Chancellor is expected to frame this as underscoring the need for fiscal stability, but we were already expecting it to be a policy-light affair. There's a huge spotlight on whether the Labour Party is going to lurch to the left after that by-election defeat in Manchester last week, but we're not expecting her to make any major announcements on tax and spend when it comes, for example, to defence spending or how to fix unemployment. She's expected to put all of that to the autumn. Now, we are going to get the latest growth forecasts from the Office for Budget Responsibility. We'll be able to calculate how much headroom she has against her fiscal rules. It was £9.9 billion. It went up to £20 billion. It's expected to stay there. And our colleagues report that she's had a £22 billion windfall from stronger than expected cash tax receipts and lower debt interest payments. That should help the Debt Management Office to slash gilt sales, gilt issuance, I should say, to the lowest in 3 years, and that should be good for gilt yields.
Lucy, thanks so much, Lucy Borden there outside, well, I've been doing great in Westminster now. For more, we're joined by Ruth Curtis, Chief Executive of the Resolution Foundation. Thanks for joining us. As always, thanks, Harry. Start by saying the Chancellor wanted a low-key affair. This is certainly what she got, but it doesn't make the economy any better.
No, and what we'll get today are these forecasts from the Office for Budget Responsibility, which won't take account of everything that's happening in the Middle East, and so unfortunately will look quite out of date already. I think the Chancellor was probably hoping to deliver a positive message today, inflation coming in lower than expected, government focused on the cost of living, but of course these changes in gas and oil prices will hold right through that.
I mean, households are cautious. If you look at the labor market, it's okay, but it's not great. What do you worry about the most?
Yeah, I worry about the labour market a lot. So unemployment has come in higher than the OBR expected just in November, and we've seen youth unemployment rise to higher than the European average. I think it's good for the Chancellor not to be making huge tax and spending announcements, but there are some issues in the economy where arguably today is a missed opportunity.
I mean, if you're the Chancellor, what would you do actually and again, I've heard everything like, look, it just needs to be more radical. People need to feel a little bit better about everything that's going on. Otherwise, this growth will remain lackluster.
Yeah, so I think certainly when we talk to businesses, we've heard that it is good that this has not been an event with loads of speculation, that there are some signs of kind of a revival of confidence that this might support. But on things like unemployment, she's got a youth jobs guarantee, but a young person has to be unemployed for 18 months to qualify for that. She could reduce that to 6 months today, but I don't think she will.
I mean, this is not a government that's strong by any means or stretch of the imagination. Does that impact policy?
Well, I think what it certainly impacts is policy uncertainty. So this Parliament has been actually the highest of any of the last 7 for policy uncertainty. And when you think about everything that's happened over the last decades, that's quite extraordinary. So the Chancellor's delivering a low-key event. She wants to persuade people that that's because tax and spending plans are stable, but obviously with political turmoil, that's hard for her to guarantee.
I mean, there's only so much, given the fiscal constraint, there's only so much actually she can play around with.
Yeah, and we're expecting headroom to come in broadly the same as the 22 billion she had in the autumn. That was a big rise in what she had before, but it's about the average move that you see in forecasts of this kind, so it's not at all money to burn.
I mean, is there one thing that would change the fortune? I mean, it's not only one thing, but I don't know if it's positive news on the labor market or how the UK deals with AI that could also change the psychology of households.
Yeah, and that fundamental kind of will the UK get out of the productivity slump that it's been in, not just since the financial crisis, but barely growing since COVID. AI looks like something that could shift the dial on that, but in the short term, we've got consumers and businesses holding back. And what can the Chancellor do today to kind of really boost people's confidence that her plans are stable, things aren't going to change, and they can start to invest?
I mean, would it be too soon for her? I mean, I'm not talking about reversal, but change some of the things that she's announced to maybe support some of the smaller businesses more?
I mean, I think we've had a lot of chop and change, haven't we? So I actually have some sympathy for her trying to keep things on an even keel, and I think business too will appreciate in the end that. But there are definitely things that I would change. So on youth minimum wage rates, for example, those are currently due to kind of accelerate towards the rate for adult rates. When youth unemployment is rising, I don't think that's the right thing to do.
I mean, we've been covering extensively, of course, in the Middle East and all of the uncertainty in geopolitics. Does it mean that CEOs and households actually hold back because there's so much, concerning news out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the reasons we've seen this lack of consumer confidence is because when you have an inflation shock, it has a scarring effect on consumers, on their attitude to spending. And if they're about to be proved right, if we're about to have another shock to energy prices that really hits household bills, then that will only introduce more caution.
The rates markets now don't really expect a second cut from the Bank of England. Would that make a material difference to the fortunes of the UK?
Yeah, I think exactly. The Chancellor was hoping that today she'd be on that path where inflation is returning to target. The Bank of England is to expect that in April, where interest rate cuts were coming, and we could start. So the bank could start even to play a role in boosting that confidence in reducing unemployment. But a shock of this kind will absolutely limit our ability to do that.
Ruth, thank you so much for joining us. Ruth Curtis there, Chief Executive of the Resolution Fund. Now we'll have special coverage of the Chancellor's spring statement from around midday UK time. And coming up, more analysis on the US-Iran conflict. We'll also be joined by a former German ambassador to the US and the chair of the Munich Security Conference. This is Bloomberg. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Pulse. I'm Francie Lacqua here in London, and these are your top stories. Middle East allies call on the U.S. to end the conflict in Iran quickly. President Trump says it will go on for as long as it takes. Iran strikes back, targeting energy infrastructure. Saudi Arabia halts operations at its largest oil refinery after a drone strike nearby. Brent crude tops $80 a barrel, and European gas spikes again after Qatar closes the world's largest LNG export facility. So France is also planning a boost to its nuclear arsenal and a major realignment of Europe's defense structure. President Emmanuel Macron says Europe needs to take more responsibility for its own security.
I have ordered an increase in the number of nuclear warheads in our arsenal. And to prevent speculation, we will no longer disclose any figures about our nuclear arsenal, unlike what we may have done in the past. Those who would dare to attack France know the unbearable price they would have to pay.
Well, joining us now from Berlin is Wolfgang Ischinger, former German ambassador to the United States, also chairman, of course, of the Munich Security Conference. Professor Ischinger, thank you so much for joining us. I mean, no one was really expecting, as we left the Munich Security Conference, to have such a huge war that seems to be spreading. First of all, is now the time for Europe really to think about to have a nuclear deterrent? Because there are voices, especially in Germany, that are not fully aligned. And if not now, getting together, when?
Well, I think that Emmanuel Macron's offer to start talking about strengthening the European component of nuclear deterrence is a good idea. It's a timely idea. Actually, it's an overdue idea. In 2020, he raised it in my presence at the Munich Security Conference. That's 6 years ago. And I think we should have started talking about what could happen, how could Europe strengthen its own contribution to nuclear deterrence, provided so far primarily or almost exclusively by the United States with respect to the European allies. So I think this is a good idea. It's very important that everything that we're going to be doing, discussing with our French partners, is going to be done in total transparency with the United States. We don't want to lose the solid support and coordination with the United States, which has provided extended nuclear deterrence now for half a century.
With Bookmap, you can see it all on the heat map and with an array of add-ons and indicators available. Identify large liquidity in an order price level and instantly see if it has been adding or pulling. Watch iceberg orders triggering as the big players scale in and out of position. Even be notified of scalping or sweeping up the order book visually or with audio alerts. Don't be a fish. Follow the big money with Bookmap.
You're seeing again an entry here at the pivot. Entry at the pivot point here.
Biz burada aşık olmuştuk birbirimize. Hatırladım. Unuttum demiş.
Çok eskide kalmış gibi geliyor bana.
Biz burada İstanbul'da. Ben seni burada kanatlarında taşımıştım.
Ne diyeceğimi bilmiyorum. Gerçekten çok eskide kaldı. Geçti. Uçtu yani, uçtu gitti.
Benim için hiçbir uçuk gitmedi. Sadece isimleri değişti. Onlara hatıra diyorum artık.
Öyle mi? Hatırlamamak üzere hatıralar gömülür. Sen de yapma ya, kocaman.
What's going on?
Okay, just broke even on the NQ right at the pivot. Tried to buy it, but it's swinging. See you get more bulls here. I need to see more aggressive bulls to protect this level or not.
Hakikaten ne işin var? Ben de merak ettim.
İstanbul'da kesin ölçü yaptım.
Ya
Ha bu arada hayırlı olsun. Evleniyormuşsun, kuşlar söyledi.
yok öyle bir şey.
Var öyle bir şey geliyor.
Yok öyle bir şey yok. İptal.
Diyorum ertele ister.
Yok iptal.
Peki bu hikayenin kazananı ben oldum ha.
Kardeş, pardon. Hayırdır? Hani ben buradayım.
Tamam canım, şaka yaptım. Ya bu akşam bir eventi verdik. Antrenör olmak ister misin?
Took us out before it moved. I should have placed a limit order
That's the way forward, first of all.
right here.
Middle East right now. So we'll get on to
We
your
move.
next. When President Trump says, look, it'll take whatever it takes, what does that mean? How much further
See if we can get on
this
gold
escalate,
here.
and how many
See if
countries
gold
will
can
be
try to
drawn
come
this
back.
war?
Well, first of all, I think there is, of course, the good news, I hope, the possible good news is that the Iranian people are being offered a chance, an opportunity to free themselves from a regime which has been really quite terribly murderous, especially in recent time. The not so good news is that many of us here in Europe are not sure that there is a good enough plan how to make sure that this is not going to end, as you just said, in an extended kind of warfare, in extended bombing campaigns. Let me put it this way. The goal of this operation should be to tell the Iranian people, we are with you. And our military campaign is not directed at you or against you. It's directed against these murderous leaders and only against them. In other words, you are our friends and we want to work with you. I hope that message can be made, and I hope that message can come across in a credible manner to the 90 million or so Iranians.
Okay, so we get it in gold. Got a discount on gold. Enter. Now we're break even. Trail break even. See their target here.
Has an end, but it's unclear what the U.S. is thinking. I mean, if there's a change in leadership, I mean, these, you know.
We did not get the right entry on NQ, but
So what's the plan for
gold
the
gave
next
us a
day,
chance.
and what role can
Take
Europe
the highs.
if anything, or China
Well,
play it in trying to see it next
We just
day
want
and
to get back to
exactly how
value area
can
here.
help the people of Iran.
Well,
It's good enough.
Let me offer one critical remark. I think it is not, the best approach, the one selected, the one chosen by the Trump administration,
That's it.
along with the Israelis, to start this on their own. I think it would have been a good idea
We hit it.
to
Hit back.
discuss
Got this.
beforehand.
Got this liquidity here.
With others in the region, including Turkey and others. The concern that this may lead to
All this liquidation here
campaign over many weeks,
got taken out, and then
that the end result may
formed a
not be,
divergence
as
on the
very
RSI. No
confident,
strength in this
peaceful
trap.
rearrangement.
This no strength bear move here was
That concern
trap
is
those
not
sellers,
not only
come back,
in the region,
and
but
we
also
took this
here in
liquidity.
So all we can do at this moment is hope
We tried to get in on NQ.
that at least some of the revolutionary
We try to get in around here, this level, to buy back on the pivot point. But gold gave us another second chance entry to take that swing high there. Swing liquidity there, right at this 50% level. Pivot, nice pivot. Push back and that's it. Trade for today. There was no news today. No events. Tomorrow is PMI, Price Manufacturing Index. Projected to, the forecast is lower, but we'll see. That's at 10 o'clock. Hump day. So we are good for today. So we're finished there. That should wrap it up for right before lunch.
America is going to have a say.
Yeah, so one break even on NQ, and we were able to hit our target. Nice 2% there, maybe 1.5% on gold. Very smooth gold movements today. I mean, just clean price action. Okay, well, happy Tuesday, and we'll see you tomorrow for PMI high impact news. All right, peace.